The day, Michael Jordan. Embarrassed Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley. There are legendary stories in basketball, and then there are the ones that sound so unbelievable, so lopsided, so downright humiliating for the other side, that people assume they were exaggerated. But this story, the day Michael Jordan walked into a gym with Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and Charles Barkley, and embarrassed every single one of them, is one of those rare moments where the truth is even crazier than the myth. It wasn't a finals game. It wasn't a playoff matchup. It wasn't even a televised event. It was a private run, a quiet gym, no fans, no cameras, no excuses. Just some of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball and one man who made them all look ordinary. This wasn't prime rookie year MJ flying around defenders. This wasn't the 1993 scoring champion. This wasn't even the Jordan who dropped 63 on the Celtics. This was a version of Jordan that should have been slowing down, older, heavier, supposedly less explosive. A guy who had already retired, come back, and was still trying to shake off the rust. Most people expected him to be good, maybe decent, but nowhere near the guy who once terrorized the league. But the moment he stepped into that gym, something changed. The air shifted. The trash talk stopped. Even the guys who had seen everything Hakeem with his footwork, Clyde with his smooth athleticism, Barkley with his brute dominance suddenly looked unsure. Because Jordan wasn't there to run plays, stretch his legs, or get some casual cardio. He was there to remind everyone, even the legends standing across from him, exactly who he was. What happened next was a close battle between equals. It was a dismantling, a cold, methodical, almost cruel display of precision and control. The kind of performance that left Hall of Famers shaking their heads and left the guys watching on the sideline, wondering if they had accidentally stepped into a time machine. And the wildest part? The story didn't leak for years, because the players involved didn't want it out there. But once it surfaced, it revealed a side of Jordan that even his biggest fans hadn't fully understood, a competitive fire that didn't fade with age, retirement, or expectations. A fire that burned hot enough to humble 3 megastars in one afternoon. And that was only the beginning. Section 1. The Quiet Gym. Everyone was talking about. It started in the most unassuming way possible, a simple invitation passed around between stars who were all in the same city. No media, no reporters, no pressure. Just a come through if you want a hoop kind of deal, the type of private run NBA legends loved, because it stripped away the noise and left only the game. Hakeem was already there early. That was his thing. He liked the calm. He liked studying matchups before anyone arrived. His game wasn't built on flash or hype. It was angles, timing, and perfection. Clyde Drexler came next, moving with that effortless glide that made it look like he never fully touched the ground. And of course, Barkley showed up loud, joking, and ready to bully anybody who tried to guard him. Together, they looked like a trio that could dominate any gym on earth. Then Jordan walked in, not with a camera crew, not with a crowd trailing behind him, just a quiet entrance, duffel bag over his shoulder, like he'd done this a million times. He didn't need to announce anything. The room just recognized him. Even in a gym full of greatness, there was an undeniable shift the moment he showed up. The conversation softened, the energy tightened. Everyone knew what it meant when Jordan laced up in a small, private run. This wasn't CT going to be friendly basketball. He barely spoke during warm-ups. No big greetings, no playful trash talk, the usual signs that MJ was relaxed. Instead, He moved with a cold focus, almost like he was preparing for a Game 7 that nobody else had realized they were in. The other guys kept it casual at first, but deep down, every single one of them was watching Jordan, wondering what version of him they were about to see. Was he rusty, slower, human? There was only one way to find out: step on the court and test him. But the moment the ball was checked in, they immediately realized this wasn't going to be a friendly test. It was going to be a lesson. Section 2. When the game started, everything changed. The first possession should have been harmless, just a warm-up sequence, a casual feel-out. That is how these runs usually went: a couple of light drives, a few jumpers to loosen the body, maybe a joke or two between plays. But Jordan didn't ease into anything. The second the ball touched his hands, he shifted into a gear that nobody expected. Barkley was the first to step up. He laughed, tapped Jordan on the hip, and said something about age finally catching up to him. Classic Chuck, loud, confident, trying to set the tone early. But Jordan didn't respond. He just backed him down with a force that didn't match a guy past his prime. One hard dribble, 2 shoulder bumps, and a fadeaway so smooth it looked scripted. Net, no rim, no hesitation. Barkley blinked like he couldn't believe it. Jordan jogged back like it was nothing. Next play, Clyde tried. Drexler was taller, longer, still athletic, and he wanted to test whether Jordan still had the lift. But Jordan didn't meet him in the air. He beat him before the jump. One jab that froze Clyde for half a second, then a lightning-quick first step, layup. The kind of move that didn't rely on raw athleticism, just timing, manipulation, and reading human behavior like a book. Then came Hakeem, and that's when everyone realized they might be witnessing something insane. Olajuwon wasn't just a great player. He was the guy nobody embarrassed. His footwork was a language only he spoke. But when Jordan attacked him on the switch, he didn't try to outduel Hakeem in the post. He used deception, a hesitation dribble that pulled Hakeem out of position by just a few inches, and Jordan rose into the cleanest mid-range jumper of the day. Bucket, not lucky, not contested, not forced, just pure confidence. By the time the first 5 possessions ended, the entire gym understood. Jordan wasn't shaking off rust. He wasn't warming up. He wasn't adjusting to life after retirement. He was dissecting 3 Hall of Famers at once. And he was only getting started. Section 3. The moment everyone realized. This wasn't normal. At first, the guys tried to laugh it off. A couple of tough shots, a few vintage-looking moves. Sure, Jordan could still hoop. Nobody doubted that. But something felt off, and not in a small way. The pace of the game shifted around him, like the entire gym had unknowingly stepped into his rhythm. Every movement he made had intention. Every read happened a split second before anyone else reacted. It wasn't just talent, it was control. Clyde Drexler was the first to openly acknowledge it. After Jordan hit another ridiculous jumper, Clyde raised his eyebrows and muttered, "Okay, that's different." And Clyde wasn't the kind of guy to exaggerate. If he said something was off, you listened. Barkley tried to break the tension the only way he knew how: trash talk. But even his usual jokes didn't land. Jordan wasn't biting. Worse, he wasn't smiling. That S when the room really shifted. Because everyone in the league knew one rule. A silent Jordan was the most dangerous Jordan. On the next possession, Hakeem tried to slow things down. He called for the ball in the post, ready to impose his dominance the way he always did. But even that didn't feel right. Jordan didn't swipe, didn't double, didn't gamble. He just watched, studied, calculated. He let the play unfold as if he was picking apart angles in real time. Then it happened again. Jordan got the ball on the wing. Hesitation, shoulder dip, pull-up, cash, again. The gym was dead silent. No claps, no reactions, just a lingering disbelief. This wasn't a guy in his early 20s overwhelming people with raw explosiveness. This wasn't a star trying to prove he still had it. This looked like a man who had unlocked something else, a level of mastery so precise it didn't need athleticism to dominate. And then, slowly, the whispers started among the players watching on the sideline. Yo, he is cooking all of them. Is he even missing? What is happening right now? Even the legends on the court began exchanging those nervous half smirks, the kind people make when they recognize they were part of something that might become a story for decades. And they were right. Section 4. When the legends tried to fight back. At some point, the embarrassment turned into pride. These weren't role players Jordan was torching. These were giants, MVPs, champions, icons. And no matter how cold-blooded MJ looked, there was only so much humiliation elite competitors were willing to take before snapping back. Hakeem was the first to respond. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't flex or talk. He simply locked in. You could see it in his stance, feet wider, shoulders set, eyes fixed like a hunter spotting a pattern. On the next possession, he met Jordan at the elbow and forced him to pick up the dribble early. Jordan pivoted once, twice classic MJ footwork, but this time, Hakeem stayed with him. It was the first moment that looked like a genuine challenge. Jordan shot anyway. The ball rimmed out. For a split second, everyone exhaled. Maybe the run was about to balance out. Maybe Jordan's streak was just that, a streak. Then Clyde Drexler did what Clyde did best. He attacked in transition. One dribble past half court and he was airborne, gliding toward the rim like only a handful of players in history could. He finished with a smooth finger roll that finally put points on the board for their side. Now things were alive. Barkley clapped loudly, energized. "Let us go! Finally!" he yelled. He backed Jordan down on the next trip, bulldozing his way into the paint and finishing through contact. A textbook, Barkley bucket, loud, physical, forceful. The legends were done playing nice. But here is the thing about Michael Jordan. He loved this part. He didn't fold when people pushed back. He sharpened. On the very next possession, he didn't settle for a jumper. He drove straight at Hakeem, the one guy nobody drove at casually, and forced a foul. Not a soft foul either, a real one, the kind that made the gym echo. Jordan didn't flinch, didn't complain, didn't look at the ref who didn't exist. He just picked up the ball, checked it back, and said quietly, "Let us keep going." That was the moment everyone realized this was a comeback from the other side. This was the spark that would make Jordan go even harder. Section 5, Jordan shifted into another gear. There is competitive and then there is whatever switch flipped inside Michael Jordan after that foul. It wasn't anger. It wasn't a frustration. It was something colder, something the league had seen before. Usually right before someone got destroyed on national television. His eyes narrowed, his shoulders relaxed, and suddenly his entire posture changed. He looked like a man who had just been given permission to unleash the part of himself he normally kept locked away. The next play was the first sign. Jordan caught the ball at the top of the key with Clyde guarding him. Drexler wasn't sagging off, he respected MJ too much for that. But he also didn't want to crowd him, because that was exactly when Jordan punished defenders. So he played him honest, textbook defense. Jordan didn't care. One dribble left. Step back. Release. The ball didn't even touch the rim. Clyde jogged back, shaking his head, half laughing, half annoyed. "Man, that is just unfair," he muttered. But Jordan wasn't done. On the next possession, they switched Hakeem onto him again. Hakeem squared up, ready for the jumper, but Jordan read his feet and exploded baseline. It wasn't the same nuclear athleticism from his early career, but it didn't have to be. His timing was so perfect that even Hakeem, with all his legendary instincts, couldn't fully react. Jordan finished with a reverse layup that kissed the glass like he practiced the angle 100 times that morning. Then Barkley tried to take a charge, classic Chuck, trying to outsmart instead of outrun. Jordan saw it coming from 3 steps away. He pulled up before Barkley even planted, mid-range, pure. At this point, the gym wasn't even shocked anymore. They were entertained, like they'd been invited to watch a masterclass disguised as a pickup game. And the legends guarding him knew it too. They weren't getting beat by old Jordan. They were getting beat by the pure essence of Michael Jordan, the version that didn't rely on verticals, muscles, or speed. Just intelligence, instinct, and a level of competitiveness that bordered on unreal. Section 6. The play that silenced even the trash talkers. Every legendary run has one moment that becomes the defining snapshot the story players tell years later, with that mix of disbelief and respect. And in this gym, surrounded by 3 Hall of Famers, that moment arrived so suddenly that even the loudest guys fell completely quiet. It started with Barkley, of course. Chuck had been trying to get under Jordan's skin all afternoon. Jokes, jabs, comments about age, comments about slowing down the usual. But after getting hit with jumper after jumper, even he felt the need to swing momentum in a way only Barkley could. He called for the ball in the post, pointed at Jordan and yelled, "Come on, guard me, let S see it." Everyone expected Jordan to shrug it off, maybe switch, maybe play it cool. He didn't tee. Jordan stepped forward without saying a word, crouched low, and put a hand on Barkley's hip. It wasn't a friendly matchup anymore, it was personal. Barkley smirked like he had the advantage. After all, Chuck was a tank. He bullied bigger guys for a living. What was Jordan gonna do? Outmuscle him? Barkley bumped once. Jordan didn't move. Second bump harder. Jordan held his ground. Now the whole gym leaned in. On the third bump, Barkley spun baseline his favorite move, but Jordan read it a full second early. He stripped the ball clean, grabbed it with one hand, and without hesitation took off down court like he was 22 again. Clyde sprinted after him. Hakeem tried to cut off the angle. Both were too late. Jordan rose up for a right-handed hammer dunk that shook the rim harder than anything he'd have done all day. Not a casual dunk, not a show-off dunk. A statement dunk, the kind that said, "I am be still that guy." The entire gym froze. No cheers, no trash talk, just stunned silence. Even Barkley just stared with his hands on his hips, mouth slightly open, like someone had unplugged his personality for a moment. And then Jordan jogged back, barely breathing hard, and said the only words he'd spoken in minutes. Why all done? It wasn't a question. It was truth. Section 7. When respect replaced competition. After that dunk, something subtle but unmistakable shifted in the gym. The competitiveness didn't disappear. These were some of the greatest players on earth, but it changed shape. What had started as a fight, then turned into a lesson, was now slowly becoming something else. Respect. Not the polite kind, not the handshake after a game kind, but the kind you feel in your chest when you recognize you're standing next to a force you can fully explain. Hakeem was the first to sense it. He walked over to Barkley, slapped his chest lightly and said, "Let it go." He's in a zone. Coming from the dream, the guy known for calm, for never overreacting, it meant something. He wasn't being humble. He was being real. Clyde, always composed, shook his head with a half smile, players get when they witness greatness, not as opponents, but as observers. "Man, we're gonna hear about this forever," he muttered. But even his tone wasn't irritated anymore. It was almost appreciative. "And Barkley?" Chuck finally cracked a grin. He walked past Jordan, bumped his shoulder, and said, all right, you got it. Today's your day." Jordan didn't look at him, didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. He just tied his shoelace tighter, the most Jordan response possible. On the next possession, something incredible happened. Instead of trying to get revenge, the guys started feeding Jordan the ball. Not to concede the game, but because they wanted to see it, to witness what else he had in the tank, to appreciate the craftsmanship up close, not as defenders scrambling to stop him, but as peers watching a master work. Jordan hit another jumper, then another, a fadeaway so smooth it looked CGI, a no-dribble pull-up that barely left his fingertips before swishing. And with every make, the atmosphere shifted further from tension to awe. By now, nobody in the gym was trying to pretend this was just a pickup run. They knew what they were seeing, a rare, unrepeatable moment, the kind only legends create, and only other legends truly understand. Section 8. The ending nobody expected. If the run had ended right there, it would be already gone down as one of the greatest private gym stories ever told. 3 Hall of Famers pushed to their limits, a silent Jordan going nuclear, and a room full of elite players watching in stunned disbelief. But the final stretch, the part almost nobody talks about, is what turned this into a myth that players whispered about for years. The score was close, but not because Jordan's team was struggling. It was close because the legends guarding him refused to quit. Every possession became a duel, pride versus perfection. Hakeem tried one last time to put his stamp on the game. He caught the ball near the baseline, executed that flawless dream shake, and finished with a soft hook that made the gym murmur. It was beautiful, the kind of move that reminded everyone why he was one of the greatest big men ever. Clyde followed it up with a deep jumper that barely scraped the net. Vintage glide. Barkley powered his way through 2 defenders and finished a layup that got everyone laughing again, the old Chuck bulldozer move. For the first time all day, the momentum was one-sided. They were piecing together a comeback. But Jordan, he didn't speed up. He didn't force shots. He didn't look rattled. He played like someone who knew exactly how the story was supposed to end. On the final possession, with game point on the line, Jordan caught the ball at the elbow his kingdom. Barkley and Hakeem both stepped up, trying to trap him. Clyde sank low, ready to swipe. 3 legends surrounding 1 man. Jordan pump-faked once. Nobody moved. He pump-faked again. They still held their ground. Then Jordan leaned back into the purest fadeaway of the afternoon, a shot so clean it looked choreographed. The ball floated, spun, and dropped through the net without touching a millimeter of rim. Game over. Jordan didn't celebrate. He didn't talk. He grabbed his water bottle, looked at the 3 Hall of Famers in front of him, and said quietly, "Good run. That was it." 3 of the greatest players in basketball history had just been outclassed not by a young phenom, not by an athletic freak in his prime, but by a man who had already retired once and still had enough brilliance left to dominate them without even raising his voice. Years later, when pieces of this story leaked out, the players never denied it. They didn't downplay it. They didn't twist it. The story that refuses to fade. Stories like this go on to survive because they re-flattering. They survive because they reveal something deeper, something raw, undeniable, and impossible to manufacture. In a quiet gym with no cameras, no crowds, and no narrative to protect, the truth had nowhere to hide. And the truth was simple. Michael Jordan wasn't just great in the spotlight, he was great everywhere. What happened that day wasn't about highlights, vertical leaps, or prime athleticism. It was about presence, willpower, command, the kind of edge that didn't need a scoreboard or a trophy to validate itself. Even among legends, even among MVPs, champions, and future Hall of Famers, Jordan carried himself like someone playing a different version of the game. The other players didn't walk away embarrassed. They walked away impressed, because they were part of something rare, a moment where greatness wasn't performed, it was revealed. That's why this story refuses to fade, why it keeps resurfacing on podcasts, in interviews, and in quiet conversations between players who were never supposed to talk about it. Because on that day, in a gym nobody expected to remember, Michael Jordan delivered a performance that confirmed what the league already suspected.